Can an innocent man spend 20 years in prison for a crime that he has evidence he did not commit? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. And this is the reality James Griffin faces every day. On January 24, 2002, a lone gunman dressed in black walked into the back door of the Carlos O'Kelly restaurant and shot the manager Bob Frazier, leaving him paralyzed for life. The police called it a botched robbery, which wasn't a far-fetched conclusion considering the fact there were 3 previous robberies at that location. Eyewitnesses gave conflicting statements, but they all agreed on a couple points. One, possibly black gunman, was seen running away from the scene. They also gave a vague description of a dark-colored Honda Accord with peeling window tint. Griffin had a criminal record. This was enough to get the police's attention. It should have led to an investigation, but no. It didn't matter that Griffin's car had well-kept window tint or very noticeable expensive rims. It didn't matter that his phone records put him 3 hours away. No, the police were determined to prove that Griffin was involved. Even though no one saw the getaway driver and some of the witnesses thought it may have been a woman, Griffin was accused and convicted of being the getaway driver. 3 people came forward with false statements during the investigation and trial. Even though these people have come forward and recanted their statement, saying that they were pressured by police to lie on the witness stand, the state of Kansas is determined to keep Griffin in prison for his full 25-year sentence, whether he's innocent or not.
If he's in jail, then he's obviously done something to deserve to be there. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. According to the Georgia Innocence Project, on average, 4 to 6% of the prison population are actually innocent of the crimes for which they've been put behind bars. That means if we take the middle, say 5%, that means 1 in 20 inmates don't actually deserve to be there. Now, if that's not disturbing, I don't know what is. While our criminal justice system works hard to keep our citizens safe, it is still subject to human error. I believe this is what happened in the case of James Griffin. While he had a criminal record and drove a car similar to the getaway car, he was 3 hours away, and he has phone records and witnesses to prove it. But police dismissed these things. His witnesses were never interviewed, and unfortunately, over the past 20 years, some of them have passed away. And the way our system works, their testimony is hearsay now. If they're not in the courtroom to verify that that is their testimony, then that cannot be used anymore. So now he's down to possibly 1 witness that can prove he wasn't in Topeka, Kansas. It took police nearly 2 years to arrest him on this case. In fact, he was arrested just a few days before the statute of limitations was expired on this case. Were the police blinded by their need for justice? Were they trying so hard to get justice for the victims' family members that they couldn't see the truth? After collecting witness statements, police were actually looking for a dark-colored Honda 4-door with peeling window tint. They claimed that Griffin owned a 1989 Honda. He adamantly denies this. He was actually driving a Mazda 626 with professional window tint and nice rims. He took good care of his car. The state of Kansas convicted James Griffin on the basis of 3 witness statements. Unfortunately, years later, these 3 witnesses have come forward with signed affidavits saying that they were coerced into giving these statements and that they were completely false. Unfortunately, this is still not enough to get Griffin out of prison. If this man has a different vehicle than described by the witnesses, if this man has phone records proving he's 3 hours away, if he has witnesses saying that he was 3 hours away, if the false witnesses for the prosecution have come and recanted their story, why is James Griffin still behind bars? Today we're going to discuss this case. I've got my cup of iced Bones coffee. Make sure and check out my affiliate link for Bones Coffee. It really helps me make more videos for you and help more families. Today I am doing the Dragon's Lair coffee is what I have. What you're about to see is an interview that I have done with James himself. Now, you will not see his face because he is in prison, and this was a prison phone call. So you will see his picture and you will hear his voice. You will also hear his wife interject some information on occasion as well.
Hey, Nova.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? What's up, lady?
I don't know about that. Cranky lady's probably better.
Well, that's great. The media needs that. Hey, I really appreciate you just taking a moment to talk to me.
Absolutely. Well, there's some clarifications I was going to ask you, if you don't mind. I read a few things that kind of contradict each other, so I wanted to clarify before I made a new video. Did you have the car? Did you have that car at the time of the robbery? I seen something that said you have a car that's similar to the getaway car, but you got it later.
So he had a Mazda 626
Okay.
that we had prior to the incident happening.
Okay.
Black with tinted. We had the windows professionally tinted.
And that was not the 89 Honda whatever that they were looking for. So he didn't have the car that they claim he had at the time of this event.
No.
Did you say that your mother could verify where you were, but then she's passed away now?
They never even wanted to try to talk to my mom. The detectives never even went to try to talk to my mom. They never even went down there to try to talk to anyone concerning me being down there. They never even followed up on the fact that my phone records were true and accurate, and there was it's connected to a tower. I mean, they said there was dummy numbers.
Yeah.
They just tried to totally insult me in front of these people like I'm just making this all up.
Right. His phone records, if you look them up, there's a little code. You might mistake it as an area code, but that's actually not an area code. That's a code for the towers that the phone was running through. So if you look through the highlighted areas, you would see that you will find the tower that it was running through. Well, that tower is in a location that's 2.5, 3 hours away. Okay. So if he's 2.5, 3 hours away, I'm sure it's because he was 2.5, 3 hours away. I'm sure he didn't send somebody on an errand 3 hours away with his cell phone and say, okay, and make sure and call my girlfriend or my wife, whoever it was, make sure and call my house, with my cell phone, so I have proof of this, so that it doesn't quite ring true. Why would his cell phone be 3 hours away without him? I'm going to read to you part of this letter written by one of the witnesses. Now, this was addressed to his wife. Hello, how are you doing? I am writing this letter and statement to clear my conscience for not testifying truthfully at James's trial. It all started when I was incarcerated in Johnson County Jail. 2 detectives from Topeka came to visit me and were asking questions about James and a robbery he supposedly committed. I told them I didn't know anything because I really didn't. James and I have never talked about anything, even related to robbery concerning him. I have known James my whole life, and I've never even seen him with a handgun or pistol of any kind. The only reason I had any knowledge of a gun was because the detectives were questioning me about it. I had a bond hearing coming up, so I told them I might know something about it. But why should I help them if they weren't going to help me? They said they would be willing to put a good word in at the prosecutor and grant me a signature bond at my bond hearing if I would testify. I, Lemetris Crutchfield, hereby admit that the testimony I gave in the Carlos O'Kelly case was false and given in fear of incarceration if I didn't cooperate with prosecutors. I hereby certify that this statement is true and accurate. Signed and dated 3/15/2013. I'm going to read to you some legal verbiage from the state of Kansas, and I believe this is how they are keeping Griffin behind bars. A prisoner in custody under the sentence of the court of general jurisdiction claiming the right to be released may move the court which imposed the sentence to vacate, set aside, or correct the sentence within 1 calendar year. So basically, this is saying that if the person is claiming their innocence, they can petition the court to vacate their sentence, but they can only do it within a year. Now, here's the problem. The conviction of James Griffin became final when the Kansas Supreme Court handed down their review, and that was on September 27th of 2007. Now, at that point, he didn't have all this information. He didn't have these witnesses coming forward and recanting their statements. All he could do was appeal his sentence on the fact that he didn't get a fair trial. Now, I contend that he did not get a fair trial because on his jury, there was no black people on his jury whatsoever. It was all white people. Now, he didn't have any jury of his peers. If he didn't have someone of African American origins on his jury, he did not. He also never got the chance to defend himself against all of these claims. The attorney kept telling him that he would get a chance to defend himself, and he never really got that chance on the stand to say what he needed to say. Now, he filed for a new trial on January 27th, 2017. Now, this is when this new evidence started coming in, and by then, it had passed the 1-year timeline. So Kansas went ahead and cut him off and said, no, we're not going to look at this. So I contend that if we can get that little bit of legal verbiage changed and amended, maybe this man will have a chance to get out of prison. See, most states, they have the same legal verbiage, but they have an amendment on the end of it. They offer exceptions in the case of new evidence, of DNA, of new science for forensics. They offer different exceptions, and this state does not. So if we could find someone who could change that legal verbiage, then they really wouldn't have a right to hang on to James Griffin any longer.
The fact is that this man had made this racist statement that's saying this guy that did this sounded black. They don't know how offensive that has been to me over 20 years now, okay? And
you don't sound black to me. How do you sound black? You know, I've worked with a lot of people from New York and the Bronx, and they all sound like mafia guys. And I've actually worked with some real mobsters. And I'm like, but they all sound like everyone. I mean, they, you know, in certain parts of the country, you're going to sound like, you know, certain things. And I'm sitting here going, how do you sound a color? Color doesn't have sound. You might get an accent from a different part of the neighborhood, but you don't get a color. A color is a visual. A color is not a sound. So I just add that all to me doesn't make sense. And why are you taking the word of someone who's traumatized? Because the eyewitness statements of someone in a traumatic event, their accuracy drops down. I believe I read 73% of the time they're inaccurate. If they have suffered trauma in that moment, their memories are only accurate 30% of the time. You know, so why are we taking his word for it? You know, I want to know. The son said that he saw somebody come in the back door as he was going to do something, and he didn't think anything about it. So I'm sitting here going, to me, he wasn't traumatized. His eyewitness statement's more accurate and more viable to me than the guy who got shot and said, well, I think he sounded black. That is such
I like the way you put it. I really like the way phrase that, because that's something that they try to angle away from.
Yeah, because I'm sure you're the only black man that lived in that area at that time. I mean, it sounds like a witch hunt to me. I'm like, they didn't like you, and they took it out on you, and they were going to find evidence or manufacture evidence to blame it on you. That's what it sounds like to me. And
well, you know what, Snow? That is something I've been trying to say for 20 years, and you know, I've went through every angle of trying to say that, but everyone hasn't had the chance to really hear the whole story like you've been trying to tell it for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But you know what, Sonova? My concern is, and it's always been, is the fact is that, you know, no one wanted to listen to me when I said in the beginning that these people that they got to testify in this trial did not know anything about this crime. And I did not tell these people about this crime. And I always question the fact is that the detective that I named that I want publicly out there, and this prosecutor, they clearly in the detective's report implicates this woman's involvement in that, in coercing these people to say what they said and force them and threaten them. There's no way around that.
So see, there's a lot of different ways we could argue this in front of a judge. It's just a matter of getting it in front of a judge that will listen. And I think that's where, hopefully, if we throw up enough media storm, we can get somebody to pay attention before the next 5 years. It's like they want to keep you for 5 more years, no matter what.
Yeah, that's what really hurts. But you know,
This episode is brought to you by Chaos Rules in Madhouse, Madison County, Missouri. This rural community should be a safe place, but it hides a dark secret. Fredericktown is one of the most dangerous places to live in America. With a crime rate of 31 per 1,000 residents, Fredericktown has one of the highest crime rates compared to all communities of all sizes. I started researching one case sent to me by a desperate grandmother that led me to 15 more. Then I realized this county has had murder, corruption, and chaos since before the Wild West days. This book will start with the lynching by a Fredericktown mob in 1844 and will end up in an explosion. Hold on to your seats when you read this one. You're in for a wild, chaotic ride through rural Missouri. Check out my new book, Madhouse, Madison County, today.
To me, they had a witch hunt out after you, and that's all it is. They wanted somebody to pin this on so they could get it off their books and move on, and unfortunately you were their scapegoat. And so now we need to kind of bring light to this, because in all reality, I don't know that I can get out of jail within 5 years. I don't know that I can do anything. But I can talk and I can make videos. So my thought is, the more content I can create online, the more pictures, the more, posts, the more blogs, the more videos, the more reels, all those things, the more I can bombard those people with this story, the more leads come in, the more pressures put on law enforcement, the more pressures put on judges. So that's the only thing I can hope for. I can talk and I can call out BS. I'm pretty good at that. I want you to just list out the specific things that prove this was not you. We've got phone records, right? We've got the phone records that show you, where were you that day that this happened?
Southeast of Kansas, just 3 hours away from Topeka, Kansas.
Okay. And you were
Coffeeville and Independence.
Coffeeville?
I was in Coffeeville and Independence. They're the same counties. This is a small community. That's where I'm from, a small town country boy. It's a small community. So those counties are connected. They're right on the Oklahoma city border line.
Right. So that's why your phone pinged off of a tower actually across the state line. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were driving a Mazda and they were looking for a Honda. You had a Mazda at the time? Is that true? You had a different car at the time?
A black Mazda 626.
Okay. And they were looking for a late model's Honda. So they found.
Yeah.
Okay. So
there's a picture of it. It's in the police reports, the kind of Honda they were looking for.
Right. It was a late 80s, 86 to 89 Honda Civic, I believe it was, with crumbling window tint, is what they said in their police report. But like I said, I done 500, so the details in my ADHD brain kind of goes. Bullet point 3: your mom could verify where you were, right?
Yes.
And the police never talked to your mom.
My attorney either.
Or your attorney. And then she's since passed away, so her any recordings or anything that she would have that says, her witness statement would be considered hearsay now. They're not going to use it now, even if they had it.
My mom's boyfriend, he wrote an affidavit, but he's passed too, but I got the affidavit of him saying I was down there too, but he's passed.
He's passed away too. So you actually have two witnesses that say you were 3 hours away, but since they've passed away, you can't use that now in a court of law. Okay. Okay. But if they had, this is the thing. If they had done their investigation, the way you legally get around that is you send your cop down there to interview. That cop takes notes. That cop statements, all that stuff is in the reports. So you could use the reports that they did their job that says, well, she told the cop this on this day. So that's how you legally get around the fact that somebody's passed away and their evidence is hearsay. But they didn't do their job at the beginning, so that cut that out for you. Okay, so we know you weren't there. You didn't have the right type of car. Now, how tall are you and how much do you weigh at the time of this robbery?
I'm like 5'8", like 205.
Okay, so you don't actually quite fit the description that the one guy gave either. So you don't quite fit the description. You didn't have the right car. You were 3 hours away. You have phone records to show you're 3 hours away. And you have two witnesses that have since passed away, but you have two hearsay witnesses that say that could verify you weren't there, right?
Yep.
Does that basically sum up all of the reasons why you can't be this person?
There's other people down there that could say it, but these people scare people. They really scare these people. So I just wish you could just see the impact that they cause on people in that community. Yeah. To where they really scared people to where people don't want to say nothing or do anything. What these witnesses have said, they came forward, came back with it, and I still feel like, legally they should be held responsible, just as responsible as these detectives and these prosecutors did to my life.
Absolutely.
They did come back forward with actually what transpired between their reports and what they testified to a trial here. Mm-hmm. Because you can, from the trial transcripts, you can read it that that these people didn't know anything. You can tell that the girl that they used they tried to inflame the situation like it was my girlfriend at the time. They tried to use that, they tried to railroad her into saying stuff that wasn't even true. I mean, did you see that recording?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
but
police tactics that are we supposed to hold the police at a higher standard because they are law enforcement, and unfortunately they are human and they do stupid things. But where the problem comes in is nobody thinks the police are saints, but when they misbehave, we don't punish them the same way as we punish other people. And that's where I think our justice system is really screwed up. If they are held to a higher standard, they should actually be punished more harshly. If they don't, but it's not that way. It's the opposite. And when these officers are doing what they're not supposed to, they should absolutely receive punishment for it.
I'm glad you said it like that, because there's no excuse for abuse of power.
No.
Okay, and to violate someone's civil rights in the process. Okay, and the way they did me in that courtroom, and it humiliated me as a someone of color, and not just of color, just a human being in that courtroom, and nobody listened to me when I'm trying to tell them why am I still here. Okay, if my attorney, like I said before, that he may not own up to this, but he told me that they wanted someone black convicted. He said, I'm sorry, but they want someone black convicted, James. And I said, well, I was just tarnished by that message. And now, after these years, I really understand why he said that. And she put and it's in the reports too, that this woman said this guy was shot behind he was shooting for hire on this guy. And the detective told her that. The main detective told her that. You know, and that's something that was totally kept, and this just came out.
Mm-hmm. So it was a shoot for hire, and you were the shooter. They should have been able to check all of your financial records and find the paycheck. Did they see any major deposits in your accounts to show that you got paid for this job? You know, I mean, all of that would be so easy to disprove if they'd actually done their job. But they didn't. I mean, it'd be like, okay, so this was a shoot for hire. Okay, follow the money. That's the easiest way to find a shoot for hire. That's the easiest way to track those down. Because nobody hides that kind of money. Nobody really, you can make deposits of certain amounts so it doesn't flag in the bank. You can do things to wrangle it around this way and that way, but you still can't hide it. And most people, they can't stop themselves from spending it either. So you'll see it. So to me, that would be an obvious, easy way to eliminate you, unless, you know, they went to your checking account or went to your financial institutions and found that you had deposited however much money. Because if it was a hit, there's a price tag. You can find it. I don't get it. They didn't do anything.
That's another fact that I didn't do it. Okay. Here's another fact that I know I didn't do it. The guy that they said it did, my brother, Griffin, this is something that they left out of the record and they left out of the media. Is the fact is that there's no way possible that he did this, because he has a medical problem. He has a rod that's laid,
right,
probably as long as our arm, okay, where he can't run at all, and it's medically.
Yep.
And there's proof of that.
Yeah.
And he limps when he walks.
Yeah.
He limps when he tries to walk fast. No one never said any of this.
Yeah, and no witnesses said that the guy that was running away from the crime scene was limping. So that would be a visible thing that someone would notice, the eyewitness statements who said, we saw this person running away. And if you go back and read those statements, until later when they're translated into the court transcripts and things, those original statements do not say it was a black guy. They say a man dressed in black. The original people, the moment they got their statement given at the beginning, they do not say a black man. They say a man dressed in black. And I noticed that right away. It doesn't change into, hey, I saw a black man running away, until it got to court. And in the court transcripts, their phrasing changes as a black man dressed in black versus a black man. So that actually progresses and changes from the original. Nobody actually said it was a black man in their original eyewitness statements. Just the guy that got shot said it sounded like a black man. So yeah. So to me, that's obvious. That's an obvious thing right there, that somebody, if you had a decent attorney, could have pointed that out. But if you go back and read it, the phrasing's different. The phrasing's different in the beginning statements. Laura, I haven't been talking to you very much. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm ignoring you.
No, you're good. You're good. Another thing is that James's brother also had his manager testified that he was at work when this happened. So that's another piece of evidence that doesn't put either one of them at this crime scene.
Is anyone fighting for him to get him off, or what's going on with him? I'm assuming he's still behind bars.
Yes, he doesn't have the funds. That's the whole thing. Nobody has the funds to fight. They know that. I put a post out there. I wish you would share for me if you would, please, because I want people to know that I don't have the money to fight this stuff. This is one of the reasons why they were able to railroad us, because we didn't have the funds.
Right.
And court attorneys, they're very limited, and they'll tell you that.
Yeah, and most of them don't want to be there, and they don't want to do their jobs, and they don't. Because they're forced to take on so many pro bono cases a year, and they don't want to, and they do it resentfully, and they don't do their job, and that's the way that goes. So we're going through our bullet points. We've gotten down through, you don't fit the witness descriptions. You don't, what was the next one? You've got, seems like there was something else. I don't have my notes here. We're trying to go through all the bullet points of why you could not have done this. I think, have we covered them all? Why you couldn't have done this?
This is how confusing this whole situation has been. They come grab you up out of your home, telling you this is what you've done. Okay? After a year after this crime had happened, a year and a half after this crime had happened, what else can you say other than, why am I here? What did I do? Why am I here? Like I said, I went to federal. I stayed in federal for like 5-6 months, waiting to go to trial also over this case, which federal dropped it. Because federal told me, they're like, well, we can see that, there is a very serious complication here. Question of did you do this or not? Because there's nothing to say that you did this, Mr. Griffin. So is there a possibility that you let someone else drive your car, or is there a possibility that someone else may have done this or any of that? Like I said, man, I don't know. I don't even know this man. I've never met this man. I've never even been to this place ever.
I heard something somewhere that the ACLU wouldn't take this. How did that work out?
Yeah, tell them, honey.
They basically said that they wouldn't take it because this was more criminal, not a civil case, and there wasn't anything civil about this case, so that they wouldn't take it.
So basically, they couldn't spin the headline enough to make enough publicity for their cause.
The same thing with the NAACP. They wanted us to donate, and they didn't do anything either.
Donate what exactly?
Just donate money.
Oh, I know what you can do. You can donate his paycheck for being, because it was a hit for hire. Donate that. Say, okay, yeah, we'll donate the hit for hire paycheck as soon as we find it, because we didn't do this.
Right.
Oh, sorry. I have a dark sense of humor. I apologize.
That's true, though.
Wait a minute. If you find that paycheck, by the way, I'm missing some money. I don't understand people. I really don't.
The other situation is that I know I didn't do it because they told me I drove to this place.
You drove to a place you've never been to before?
That's basically, there's no other way of clarifying the fact is other than, I know I didn't do it because they told me I drove to this place.
How did you drive all the way from Coffeyville to that place?
That's what I'm trying to. That's only God knows. I'm telling the truth on that.
You have was that Mazda? Was that Mazda? Did you have NOS in that Mazda?
I had what?
Did you have NOS in that Mazda? You have NOS, like a street racer? You had NOS in your Mazda?
Oh, God, no. Oh, Lord, no. Yeah, it was just a regular old Mazda with nice rims and music. So I play loud all the time.
Yeah.
And with a very expensive stereo in it. And my windows were really nice. I mean, that was typically just me.
Well, did anybody ever go back and find out why this guy was robbed 3 times in a row?
That's another thing.
Well, did anybody ever find out how much cash was taken in the other 2 or 3 robberies? No, I know there was none now, but the first 2 or 3, obviously cash was stolen.
That's something I never even know. I didn't even know this guy had been robbed.
Well, I heard that he was robbed 3 times.
Yeah.
Which, okay, again, this is making my head itchy. If you've been robbed before, see, even that story doesn't make sense to me. If you've been robbed before, you don't leave your doors unlocked. You don't. Maybe it's just who I was raised by. I don't ever sit with my back to the door. You don't leave the door unlocked. Don't sit with your back to the door. Why wasn't that man armed? Why wasn't there alarm systems? Why wasn't there video cameras? If you have been robbed 3 freaking times, and then you brush it off? Because see, the guy come in the back door, says, give me your money, and he sloughed the guy off because he thought it was a joke from his coworkers. See, none of that makes any sense to me. You've been robbed once. You take measures to protect yourself so you don't get robbed again.
Is how many times do I have to scream I'm innocent till someone finally listens? I can't find any more words to say that, I just feel I'm just thankful to just know that someone is really going to get this word out there. That means a lot to me. And thank you. And to my wife.
Yeah, I will tell you this, and this is what I do tell people when I talk to them directly. I can't guarantee you anything. I can't solve it. I don't have a badge. I do have a gavel. Ooh, I have a crystal gavel. Fans send me stuff in the mail all the time, and I kept this one. It's a crystal gavel. But I'm not a judge, so I can't get you out.
but I can tell you I will write and use all of my marketing skills as I can, and I will do it with the heart as if it was my kid in there or my family member in there. I have a very empathetic heart, so I will write it to the best of my ability. I will run it as hard as I can, and I wish I could guarantee you that I could get you out, but I can't guarantee that. But I will run it as hard as I can, and I will continue to run it until something changes. I won't give up on you. If all of these witnesses have come forward and have claimed to be coerced by law enforcement and prosecutors, why hasn't this case been thrown out? Why hasn't he gotten a new trial? That's what I'm left questioning. Why can't we get someone to pay attention on this case? James Griffin has served 20 years out of a 25-year sentence, and he's only got 5 more to go. The ACLU and the Innocence Projects have both turned down this case. Why? The ACLU doesn't usually take criminal cases unless the government has blatantly violated a person's constitutional rights. I contend the fact that he did not have any black jurors, that, I believe, violated his rights. But they didn't see it that way. The Innocence Project focuses mostly on life sentences and DNA exonerations. They don't usually focus on smaller sentences. Basically, Griffin's case just doesn't fit their qualifications. The only thing we can do now is kick up a media storm around this case and contact the local governor. Think about it. If Griffin and his brother are innocent, then the original shooter is actually still out there. How many people have been shot and killed in the last 20 years while they have the wrong man behind bars? Justice demands that we find the truth. Will you help us?
Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you.